What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the LA Soccer Hub Show. My name is Gio Garcia. Today is Tuesday, July 27th, and every Tuesday we're talking LAFC, we're talking black and gold. There's a lot of breaking news that happened today. Obviously, the biggest news: Mark Anthony Kaye, he got traded to Colorado Rapids. That's going to open up some salary for LAFC. That's going to open up a lot of room. But here to help me talk about all things black and gold, we got Juan Pablo Marquez. How you doing, JP?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. We also got Celso. We also got Back in Black. He should be joining us. But yeah, man, how was the weekend? I know you were able to cover the game. How'd you spend your weekend?
Yeah, I spent the weekend covering the game. Wrote my article about it. If you guys want to check that out. Then just a regular casual Sunday. Oh, woke up early to watch the Mexico game, but they lost. So that was a bummer. Kind of woke up for nothing. But ready to talk LAFC.
Yeah, no, I mean, lots going on, and we're trying to get Celso in here. I think he's having some troubles. But yeah, no, I mean, there were so many different things going on this weekend. Obviously, I was at the Gold Cup. I got to spend time, go to see Mexico versus Honduras. That was a great matchup just to see that. And obviously, you were at the LAFC game. With all that going on, what were your surprises? What were your thoughts going into this game versus Vancouver for LAFC?
After the midweek loss against the Timbers, especially it being in the last minute, I expected them to be a bit more hungry in the first half, or since the beginning of the game, and get a W. Get back to winning ways after that 3-game win streak got broken. But that was the case. They started the game, half awake, and then it cost them at the beginning.
Yeah. So how you doing, man? What's going on?
Good. Had some technical issues in my light. As you can see, it's not very good because the sun keeps changing, and I was kind of hesitant to turn my camera on. But excited to be on and talk a little bit about LAFC. Busy day, as you guys know.
Yeah. No, we're trying to see if we could get you on or not. But we're like, hey, he'll be able to figure it out. But now we're just talking about the weekend and obviously a little bit about the Gold Cup. But how'd you spend your weekend?
Oh man, the weekend was about LAFC for me. I have kids, so that is a big part of it as well. But I try to incorporate LAFC in that parenthood, thing that I do. So they went to the game. My kid went to the game, and it was a great time. Outside of the draw, but it's always fun to go to the bank. Hang out with the fans. The atmosphere is always great, regardless of the result.
Yeah, where do you typically sit? Because I know you guys season tickets.
Yeah, so I like to have a very close perspective on the field for me, so I like to be very close to the players, very close to the field, and the bank's a perfect place for it. There's very little space between, yourself and the pitch itself. So I'm 3 rows up, right by the corner flag on the south end. So, because I have my kids, I like to be on that side as well. Plus, it is easier to get close to the field. So I really wanted to be there, that spot. So, I enjoy the corner kicks. I got to see every time there's a corner kick on that side, a twist that comes over, and I get to see that vantage point of that left side. For me, it's really interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely do see you post videos and pictures of you at the game. So that's always good. And you got a good seat in that house. I mean, there is no bad seat at the Bank of California.
There is not. Yeah, so, there isn't. And I think the fun is as a season ticket holder, do I want to hold these seats or do I want to rotate? I want to have different vantage points within the stadium, see different things, and when you watch football the way we do, we're looking for little things. We're looking for the details. So again, unfortunately though, what that means for me is that I get to see a lot of lately Raheem Edwards and a lot of the guys attacking left, right? Because at the bank, we're always going first half this way. And so I never get to see some of the action, some of the other side. So, it is what it is. I like it. It's been fun, especially because you get that little proximity to the field. I love it. I love that field feeling.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing spot. Obviously, Juan Pablo, you were there, right? You were able to cover your second match for us. So I know it was an interesting game to say the least, right? I was against Vancouver. Whitecap. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it a little bit. I want to bring up the lineup here. Let me see if I can pull it up. Obviously, with the players, and we'll talk about the breaking news today. I know Celso, you weren't with us, but obviously we'll talk about Mark Anthony Kaye and what that means. The trade and everything, what that means for LAFC moving forward. Because I mean that's big. That opens up a lot of room for a lot of different things. But before we get into that, I want to just pull up here the starting lineup here on the previous matchup. Here, let me just pull it up. Let me share my screen right over here. And as we can see, obviously, it went with Tomas Romero, Tristan Blackman, back as a starter, Kim Moon-Wan, Jesus Murillo, Farfan Edwards. And in the midfield, you had Blessing, Atuesta, Sifu, Rossi, and Vela. JP, what were your thoughts on this lineup?
I thought it was a rotational lineup. Obviously, Segura being absent was the big one. Raheem getting back into the starting lineup over Palacios. The middle, that's been the same three for the majority of the season, and then Rossi and Vela up top. So your eyes just straight go to the back line and see the changes there. Obviously, it's rotation. It's not that Segura can't play. It's just to rest them up.
Yeah, so what were your thoughts on this lineup? And obviously, Atuesta back in there, and some of the changes that happened from the previous match.
Yeah, so the question is with Segura is that whether he had picked up an injury or something, and now with the news today that he's not going to be available, right, for the game. I wonder if that was something already bothering him, and it was not rotation. But again, first thing I thought was, yes, we're definitely seeing the rotation. We thought about this is a weaker opponent, we're home, and we have depth to do this, right? So it were a lot of plug and play positions. It was great to see Atuesta back in there. Again, I love to see him play and distribute the ball the way he does. And, it also was good to see some constancy in that lineup, right? Go back to what we really, at the time, believed to be our essentially the best 11, right? With outside of Segura being rested.
Yeah, and obviously, with this lineup, they did struggle a lot more than I thought we would see. In the first, that they did have a couple opportunities. I think in the first 6 minutes to get the lead. Unfortunately, LAFC wasn't able to capitalize. But Vancouver just jumped all over them, essentially in the first half. JP, were you surprised by how LAFC performed in that first half?
Yeah, I mean, the middle just looked lackluster. There was no mobility. They couldn't get touches in, couldn't move the ball, they couldn't push the ball forward or to the wings. And it kind of made Raheem and Moon just seem lost or place at times. And then it was easy for them to just catch us on the counter, which is what they did in the first goal. Raheem kind of didn't play the game expected. He was just caught out of place a lot, and Farfan had to cover his ground, which just opened up the back line and exposed us really bad. Moon just wasn't as dynamic as we've seen him with Vela. That connection, I don't know if Mark Dos Santos studied it or what, but it just wasn't there like previous games.
Yeah, and I think on that aspect is just how they were caught off, and then then even the second goal that comes off the set piece, we know this team has struggled with the set pieces. So what were your thoughts when the team went down early 2-0 to Vancouver?
So you could sense it coming, in the stadium. You noticed who is the aggressor. I always look for that. Who's the aggressor coming in? And within 10 minutes of settling in, you don't really know because it's the beginning. There's the adrenaline. Everybody's, there's the 3-2-5-2. Things happen within the 10 minutes. Don't get me wrong. But once the 10 minutes went through, you start seeing the patterns and what was happening, and you started feeling that game was not going to be what we thought was going to be. It was clear that we were gonna audible out of whatever it is that we were going to try to do, or they were going to beat us. And they did, and within 24 minutes, we saw it. They're exploiting our wingers, and which was a strength for us. And what I saw is that they must have looked at tape of the last few games, and very quickly they were able to put people behind our wingers, and both Portland and them had a very wide attack with two guys really wide, and they were also behind our wingers. And in one of the goals, you would see very clearly Farfan extremely high up in the pitch, almost midfield, and it was really easy for that combination that's been working so well to be broken. And then it was all legs and everybody running for their lives. But you're right. I do believe that the coaches have looked at Portland's tape and figured out that if we can put guys in the wing, they're going to be outnumbered and we're going to have advantage.
Yeah, and I think one thing, the positive of coming out of that first half was that Vela was able to get one back. I believe it was like the 40th minute. That was a positive. So I got the goal here, and I want to play the goal here.
50-50s. I think Vancouver's winning that as well. Just got away from that one. Here's Carlos Vela. Can he pull one back? He does. The offside flag is up. Offside flag is up.
So that was obviously very quick. The quick replay there. JP, Vela came in clutch in a game and a half that looked like, they weren't going to get anything out of it. What were your thoughts as soon as he was able to get that goal?
Yeah, I mean, it just showed how easy it technically is to get a goal against Vancouver, and it exposed Vancouver, and maybe that they should have picked that a bit more in the second half. But it was just a lack of intensity overall in the first half, and then it seemed like Vela wanted the ball that play, and took one on, turned, and then shot it with his right, which is something he usually doesn't do, which is, I guess, a character thing. It seemed like he wanted that ball, he wanted that play. But that was what the team was lacking all around the first half, and that's why they were down 2-1. Ultimately, the intensity changed in the second half, which is why they got the tie. But it was an easy goal, and it was a much needed goal, because if not, they wouldn't have came back.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, very, very, very clutch of Vela to get that with his right foot. So, what were your thoughts as soon as Vela was able to get that one goal?
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought. I was like, okay, we're back into it, and I immediately that constant feeling of sorrow that you get when you're like, oh man, this is not going to go away. It went away immediately, so it restored the crowd, and it was very important for the psyche of the team, I'm sure, to go into the halftime with that 2-1, feel that they could come back. Which, by the way, made it really disappointed that we couldn't make it into a win, given some of the success we've had with Vancouver, right? Which told me that what happened was not a fluke. That we were very lucky to get back into this game. But, this could have very easily, if it wasn't for Tomas Romero, right, with the crazy save that he was matrixed one way and saving us from making it, I think it was 3-0 at that point. I don't remember, or maybe 2-0, but it could have really easily gone south, and that goal brought us back. And I will highlight the long pass of Eduardo Atesta, which was surgical. It was between a lot of defenders, finding Vela, which is the big issue that I have with our current roster, which there's probably 4 or 5 names that are always making the difference. And we really struggle to find who the other 5 or 6 pieces are to complement them. And I understand there's going to be a rotation. I get it. But that always the 3 or 4 guys have to come to our rescue to make it work. It's troubling to me, because these guys may not be around or available forever.
Yeah, Isaiah here, and he makes a point. He says here in the chat, says wide overloads are how you can beat the back 3 or back 5 and a deep block. Also, Farfana is a weak link defensively, so going at him is essential. That's interesting. Do you guys agree with that?
Let me bring this up, because this is important. If you want to play the goal again, you would see where Moon Juan is. All right. Now let me just hypothetically say that Atuesta's ball is not as surgical and he gets it intercepted. All right. So yeah, you can make it about fun, right? But the second goal was the same issue, and it was exploited on the fact that Moon Juan was playing a wingman, trying to get us back, right? And now we're like playing behind. So, I don't believe it's a deficiency of Farfan. I believe it's a deficiency of the system and the fact that the coaches are basically figuring out how to defend against it and more importantly, attack against us, which is making it impossible for our wingers to do what they want to do. Again, that ball doesn't go through. It's a situation where we lost the ball in the middle. Atuesta loses a lot of balls, right? He gets dispossessed a lot, and then it's a foot race. So
yeah, no. I mean, you make some solid points there. I think also it's also about being able to change the formation at half, and I don't think. Obviously, I know you guys were there. I was covering the Mexico game, but I think that's one thing that could adjust, right? That could help out this team, is being able to change the formation, maybe in the second half, maybe going into maybe the 70th minute, depending how the game looked. Obviously, I wasn't able to watch the game in full, but I think those are some of the things that sometimes you can adjust those. You can adjust those formations. You can adjust the back line. JP, what are your thoughts?
I don't think Farfan is a defensive liability. I thought the middle was a liability this game, because the wing backs are always going to push up. They're always going to want to look for that width. But if the middle isn't moving the ball enough, they're not going to find them, and they're just going to lose and end up losing it, and then get caught on the counter. And that's when Farfan looks exposed because it's a 2v1, or even Blackman 2v1 in that situation. I think Farfan is our only center back that's left-footed. And when you're playing three in the back, you can't have three right-footed center backs. I think that's a liability. So I think Farfan gives us a bit of flexibility there, being the one that can play it out to the left easiest.
Yeah, no, I mean you make a solid point. Anthony in the chat says, props to Vancouver. They surprised us. They surprised all of us, but we should win tomorrow. And Brian Rodriguez should get some more playing time. We need that speed. I would rather switch the formation up to 4-3-3. I think the 5-3 the 5-3-2 has been working, but to my point, I think maybe in the second half, maybe you can switch it to a 4-3-3. We've seen he didn't get to play this game, but we did see him play. He went for Carlos Vela versus the Timbers. So I think Bob Bradley's still trying to figure out where Brian Rodriguez will fit into the system. What are your thoughts on potentially going back to that 4-3-3, or should Bob stick with this 5-3-2 formation? Celso?
So for me, first of all, is B-Rod's gonna just be in front of Corey Bear now for that third spot in our offensive third. So the first question is, does he even make the starting 11? And if we're gonna go with three offensive players, no matter if they're wingers and what positions they play, because it has been confusing just to keep track of how Bob Bradley utilizes players from a positional standpoint. So I don't believe that we're going to see him come off the gates and start a game, given the fact that he didn't play 1 minute in the game that you probably need him the most. It doesn't make a lot of sense. There might be conditioning issues. That was Vince LaRosa brought it up in our spaces on Monday, saying that, if we're not seeing him play at all, it might just be because he just doesn't have any gas in the tank to play, because he hasn't played any at all. So I hope that's not the solution for our slump, because what we've seen of B-Rod in the 15 minutes is a lot of what we saw of him last year. He adds a lot of mobility. He adds a lot of things for us, but what he doesn't add is goals. And, what we're lacking right now is the ability to put the ball in the goal. So who is the guy to do it? I'm not sure, but I don't know if B-Rod is the third 4-3-3 attacker there to come, put us back into that form that we were, to be able to put multi-goal games out there. I don't see him yet being that player.
Yeah, and I think to that point, I think we have to see if B-Rod, right? If he's getting put up top for Vela, which we saw at the Timbers, your expectation is for him to score goals in the back of the net, right? He only got to play maybe 15 minutes. He hasn't seen the pitch there, so obviously I don't think his conditioning is doing so well. But we expect him to get some playing time tomorrow. What are your thoughts, JP, on this conversation and what Anthony asked?
I don't think the 5-3 exists yet. Obviously, Vancouver figured it out, but just because one team figures it out, it doesn't mean everybody has. But I ultimately think we should go back to the 4-3-3, because if we're gonna get the player that we think we're gonna get, or that's rumored to come, I think the team should start playing that formation again, so the team is used to it, and you just plug him in at the 9 spot, and then a 9, it's kind of the easier role to put in. You just be in the box, runs, try to look for a goal there. So yeah, maybe B-Rod does deserve minutes. You brought him for a reason. I think it's been 2 weeks again. I think he should get a half. Maybe Bear starts, or maybe we just start with the 5-3-2, and then second half switch to the 4-3-3, and then you put B-Rod and Bear like last game. But yeah, I think the 4-3-3 should start getting more playing time.
Yeah, if I may add something real quick, because some of the formations and talking about that fluidity and the fact that it does change in game, and sometimes it's hard to read it, is when we do go 4 back, and you see it's a pretty flat line with our wingers staying more back, and we go as a diamond in the middle with Cifuentes on top of the box, becoming that third offensive players, and then Vela and Rossi really go wide, right? And become and then we've seen success from Vela in that position to the right with Bunwan, creating some space, with those triangles that I keep talking about, right? Like you have to have 3 guys in your area that, you guys are going to make it happen. And same thing on the left. So I would love for us to maybe use some of that where, maybe we come with 5, but we, during the game, shift into this 4 with the triangle, using our wingers to our advantage, but also, understanding that it's situational because, again, now it seems like they figured out how to beat it, especially when we have, very fast players on the other side, like Asprilla. He was crushing it on the right, crushing it. And same thing with the young kid from Vancouver. That I was props to them because they are beating us with speed. Both teams beat us with speed. Now again, in Portland, you're playing carpet, so it's faster by nature. Bob Bradley and I have something there, but you have to stop the speed because we cannot play with that much speed anymore. Like it's not working.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you, Nate. I mean, you did get to see how fast Vancouver really was, and I think that really was surprised a lot of people. And also, I think maybe the schedule of these teams playing so many games between the week and obviously midweek maybe has something to do with it. But you mentioned Jose Cifuentes. Obviously, I want to talk about Jose Cifuentes. He's been having a great year. He has I think he scored his 5th goal. He has 2 assists, and I got his goal right here to go back into the game, and I just want to play it.
Palacios, good cross, back post, and it's 2-2! Sifu! Perfectly timed on the volley, Heath Pierce. Goal number 5 for Jose Cifuentes, and it comes with a quarter of an hour remaining.
Obviously, Sifu, came in clutch one more time. He got the game time assist. Like I said, he has 5 goals and 2 assists this year. So no, I mean, a surprise year for Sifu. Surprise everything that he's been doing, and obviously, also I'm pretty sure what led to the decision today. But JP, what were your thoughts on Jose Cifuentes this game?
He's our best player this season. Last game was not an exception. It was a banger of a goal. The crowd really roared after that game or after that goal. I really thought we were gonna get the 3rd one after I heard the stadium's roar after the goal, but it didn't happen. But Cifuentes is great. Ever since he's been up to the 10 role, he's really flourished or given more offensive duties. Before he would be more back as like the 6, and he didn't feel comfortable in that position. But once he's been pushed up and given offensive liberty, he's been phenomenal for us, and he's always a threat with his shots from outside the box.
Yeah, no, he's also, and I mean, you got to see the quality in that goal. First time Valley ends up putting it in the back of the net. So what were your thoughts on this goal and this performance from Sifu?
Yeah, I think I've jumped my own gun there, but again, I love when he becomes that 3rd attacker for us, top of the box organizer, whatever you want to call it, and always finding space to put the ball in the back of the net. His goals have been somewhat similar and from where they've been scored from. I've noticed that. And he seems to have found his sweet spot. He's also a player that is really, 2-dimensional. If you need him to become more defensive, as JP has said, he's able to do that. So he's not shy on situations where he needs to be more defensive, like in the Austin game. That's really where my eyes open to what he's able to do. And, ultimately, I believe he's their future, because as some of those players are moving on, and he came in and took a little bit of a while to come on to what we're trying to do here, we're looking for leaders. And he's the next guy for us to really, take that role, because let's be honest, we talked a lot in our chat today about the lack of leadership, or yesterday about the lack of leadership of this team. And he can be someone that, not only with his play, but with his intelligence and his charisma can bring some of that for LAFC, and help some of the young guys that are coming in and become better players.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I've been very impressed with Jose Cifuentes and how he's been able to take his game to the next level. Obviously, he wasn't able, he didn't get called up for the Copa America, but I think that also motivated him. I think that also gave him more time with his teammates and not having necessarily to adjust. I think Bob Bradley talked about it earlier in today's press call that, you know, sometimes when the players go to international duty, for them to come back, it takes a little bit of time for them to get back into the rim and swing of things. But obviously, you know, Jose Cifuentes, I think, is a big part in what played into today's official decision of LAFC essentially moving on from Mark Anthony Kaye. We know now that Mark Anthony Kaye, was traded for $1 million in general allocation money and a 2022 international slot plus incentives. Colorado also gets LAFC's 2022 first round super draft pick. So obviously that is the biggest news. That is some breaking news. When I first heard about this, I was surprised right away, but I was also thinking, like, how are they going to get this money for a Christian Arango, right? Because I was like, who? Because they got to move some pieces, or they had to move one piece, and obviously it made sense. JP, what were your thoughts on the Mark Anthony Kaye news today?
It was shocking. Nobody expected it. I don't think Kaye was the one that we would have sacrificed. I thought we would have sacrificed or moved to get the money for Arango. But the middle's been without him ever since he's gone to Gold Cup. The middle hasn't lost its footing. It's looked a bit stronger in my opinion. Now we can give minutes to Guiñela, who takes a lot of salary, or Duke, who's young and upcoming. So it gives players minutes in the middle when we rotate the middle. But yeah, I mean, now we have the money to get the striker, which is I think the team is missing and can take us over that hump, and we're getting quality now. So yeah, I mean, it was shocking, but it's something that had to be done.
Yeah, no, it was definitely something that that surprised everybody, and I think also, John Thornton spoke. He rarely comes and speaks, and he had a few things to say about Mark Anthony. So I got a quote here. Here's on the trade. He says, "Mark has been an incredible story for LAFC. He's come so far in such a short period of time. It's tough, but it's the reality we have to accept. We live in a cap constrained world. It was a tough decision, but one we felt it was necessary." End quote. Celso, give me your thoughts on the Mark Anthony Kaye trade.
Well, so the first thing I thought was like, so if it's about opening up space and money, is this really the best we can do? And if it is, it's depressing, hands down, because I am actually surprised by the lack of movement of some of our stars and some of our main contributors, because it was expected as some of the guys were going to be moving on, and those deals fell through. So I don't know if there was really a need to clear up space, and we found this deal to make it happen. I'm concerned because I believe that, again, if it has to happen right away, great. But there has been so many deals, right, on the table for players that are, reaching their max value, and all of a sudden those deals are evaporating. And the best we can do is a guy that is completely, in my opinion, the odd man out in a rotation of players, of skilled players, by the way. I am concerned about that. Having said that, the deal is good for both ends because, again, I believe Colorado Rapids is going to have a better midfield, and there's been some articles about that, how they're going to really be a force to reckon with in the midfield. And for us, again, we had a problem of fit. He was not a good fit, and throughout his career here, he's gotten some slack for playing games where he was not the best fit for it behind other guys. So I do believe we've cleared out a problem, a roster problem for us that he didn't cause, our players didn't cause. And at the same time, Colorado is getting a quality player that did a lot of good things for us and maybe took a little bit too long to go, which is, again, my bigger concern with how we're handling some of our youth and how we've developed them and have been unable to dish them into bigger markets.
You mentioned something when you first spoke. Are you talking about like getting other deals for other players? Because to me, this looks like a great deal for LAFC. Because are you talking about other deals for other players? Because I mean, to get $1 million from Mark Anthony Kaye when he he was struggling, right? He was struggling in the midfield. I mean, I think this is like a home run deal for LAFC. But I think if you're talking about other deals with other
here's
players,
the point: how much could have we gone for him? A year after, in 2020, right? Right before pandemic, right before we had a big 2019, or for example, how much could have we gone for him, or for other players when they are at their max value versus when they're starting to wear off? And and then you can go down some of the transfers that we've had and where the players are today.
But
that's what I'm talking about.
I don't think you would have sold Mark Anthony Kaye though, like a year ago. I don't think that trade would have made sense. Right now, it all makes sense, right? Because everything's with timing. Like a year ago, maybe he was at his peak, maybe he wasn't. But maybe let's put it this way. To your point, maybe he was, but at the same time, he was a focal piece with LAFC, and he was not struggling with this passing. So I think a year ago, I don't think this trade would have made sense for LAFC because he was a focal point in the midfield. Right now, I feel like this is a steal for LAFC because how he's been struggling, and on top of that, we just said on Jose Cifuentes and when he's being able to bring up. So I think they found the money because to John Thornton's quote that they were cap constrained, that they were able to get $1 million of allocation money that they're now going to be able to use for Christian Arango, which is the biggest thing, and being able to find that money. But to your point, to try to sell the best players at the best peak, sometimes it will make sense, sometimes it won't, right? Because let's talk about trying to sell Diego Rossi at his peak. Maybe that was last season, but no one would have thought of selling Diego Rossi. Maybe some people would have, maybe some people wouldn't have. But this season, Diego Rossi doesn't look like to be the Diego Rossi of what we've seen. But I to your point, I get you, but I don't think you're going to sell Diego Rossi after last season, unless LAFC felt like they got a good enough deal. But maybe to your point, maybe they are holding on to a little bit, but they're also trying to win a championship this year, right? So it's this balance that I think it's a difficult balance. But I think with this trade, if someone's willing to give LAFC $1 million for Mark Anthony Kaye, I mean, that obviously they had to give up a couple
finances
pieces.
And the money aspect of it works, no doubt about that. And again, like I said, it was a good deal for both sides, and he lost space. He started 92% of his games here. I mean, that is something, right? That is something to be said about a guy that was a role player from a salary standpoint. That was not, nobody expected that of him when we signed him, and so he for us was more than we ever thought he was going to become. So kudos to both sides. I think Mark is going to be happier in another place because he did feel like it. Some of us didn't welcome him as much as he deserved. But again, it's part of as John said, right? It's part of the other part of this game, which is they're professionals. They're very visible in what they do, and they have to understand that comes with that territory, which is you're a visible person, and we're going to criticize you for your work.
Yeah, and I think that was one of those things that I seen. Mark is a great guy, but I think some of the negative things that came outside of his play, I think some fans were upset that he blocked them and different things like that. I think that's what you're alluding to. It's never easy, right, as a player or anything like that. But I think that's some of the things. If you're a professional player, especially in LA, or whether or not I think I understand it. Maybe other players may or may not see it this way, but that's what comes with the territory, right? When you're doing good, everybody loves you. When you're not doing good, people are going to talk about you. And I think that's what rubs some of the people the wrong way. Nevertheless, I think it's a good situation for both parties. It's going to be a good situation for LAFC because they're going to be able to get that money for Christian. Mark Anthony Kaye goes to a loaded midfield, so I think it's going to be good to see where how he fits in with Colorado. And Colorado is literally just behind LAFC in the standings, which makes it interesting. And John Thornton was asked about that, about selling a player within the same conference, and he said he didn't necessarily. It's not something he's aware about it. I'm just paraphrasing, but it's not something that led to this decision that really influenced him to not move Mark Anthony Kaye to Colorado. Even though I don't think they've faced each other just yet, so I'm assuming we'll see Mark Anthony pretty soon. I need to look at the
we beat
schedule.
Him 2-0 in the beginning, yeah.
Yeah,
So that was a
did 2-0.
good win for us. Yeah, because we beat him soundly, and they're a really good team. So he's going to a good team, and we want to see that, right? But yeah, he's adding to a team that is ahead of us in the standings, and I believe we see them again. Yeah, so we're going to see Mac.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the interesting thing. So obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if Christian Arango is announced tomorrow because they got the money, right? So I think that wouldn't be surprised if he's announced tomorrow, and then by the end of the week he's already with LAFC. Because I don't think LAFC plays until like after Wednesday. I believe that they have the weekend off and they play the following Wednesday. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how he also fits in. JP, I know you were off, but anything else you'd like to add on this trade for LAFC?
I think it was a good trade because we got $1 million for Kaye, who's only going to be able to be under contract for a year. It's not like we had just renewed him for 3 years and we're only getting $1 million off 3 years. We're getting $1 million for 1 year. We're losing a draft pick, but we have enough youth in our ranks that we're rolling out to the lights to say that wasn't a loss. But yeah, I mean, Kaye's going to a stacked midfield with the Rapids. I think he fits better there. They're more aggressive and he just covers more ground, so it'll fit there. But yeah, I mean, we did what we had to do to get our number 9, and hopefully he can come in sooner rather than later.
Isaiah in the chat, he's a Colorado fan. He says, I saw the trade, and I got to say, I'm surprised as a Rapid fan that we traded for Kaye to begin with. LAFC are lucky to dump him off, though, as he is the weak link there. I think you're going to be surprised. I think this gives Kaye an opportunity to, dust off whatever he had to dust off, and gives him another opportunity to prove his worth. And like I said, he's going to a contending team right now in the playoffs. So I mean, it's going to add to a lot of that strength in the midfield. And obviously, Colorado's not the same. Denver's not the same thing as LA. And I don't think that, I'm not saying that you guys don't have expectations, but the pressure there compared to here I think it's going to be a lot more easier for Mark Anthony to play with and not have to deal with some of the things that he had to deal with here in LA, which is a little bit more demanding. But nevertheless, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, I'm still going to keep an eye on how Mark Anthony Kaye does, but also I'm going to interested to see how LAFC moves forward. And because this is Sifu, Janela, Bryce Duke, those are the guys that that are going to step up. So who else are you looking to come off that bench in the midfield for LAFC?
So it's a good question because you have to understand what are you losing, and again for the Colorado fan, like what are you gaining with Mark Anthony Kaye? Because in my opinion, and what I mentioned earlier is that he's a specialist and he does certain things extremely well, right? So when you're looking to replace certain things, you're replacing what he does. The number one one thing that I see him do it, and I've seen him live, is his long ball ability. He plays the long ball better than probably most of our guys. I would like to see a guy like Bryce Duke get more time. And I know that's not a natural answer, and he probably is behind some of the guys, but I know that he has an excellent long ball, and I believe he will be someone that will gain more space with Mark Anthony Kaye departing, as we've seen it already, right? When Kaye's not in the lineup, he gets, to play some minutes. So I believe it's Duke's time to show that he can be the next center, mid for LAFC. We don't know how many more games we have with Atuesta, and in that midfield position. And so for me, the young guys are going to have to step up. And again, all lights on Francisco Ginella as well, because we've been asking for that. The 3 starters are set. I wouldn't mess with the starting lineup for the midfield. It's the same one that you flashed the last for Vancouver. I believe we continue with that one. Again, gets the opportunity to show that they're going to be the next thing coming up. And I believe it's going to be Bryce Duke and Francisco Ginella. And it's an open competition with Ginella now on the up. Duke came back on the last couple of games, and I'm going to say disappointed, but I don't believe that if he had done that well, he would have not come back to the lineup. So it's Ginella's time, and we've been asking for that. And I believe he's going to be the guy that is going to take us and hopefully get us to 2 wins here in this next really tough games that we're going to have.
I mean, Janella's getting paid $500,000, so I mean, that guy definitely needs to see some playing time, and he is, and I think obviously with Mark moving on, the opportunities are going to be there. JP, who are you looking forward to? Come off the bench for LAFC?
Yeah, Duke, because Duke is the one that plays more or less K's position. I see Guiñela more as a Tuesa's replacement at the 6. So Duke is the one that's going to have to fill in that K void. It's not like Guiñela can't play the 8, but he's just shown throughout his career here at LAFC that he's more of a 6. He's more of the CDM. So yeah, Bryce Duke is the one that needs to step up. So that kind of shows that we only have 2 options in the middle to mix it up and change things, which isn't bad. I mean, you can technically drop Vela into the middle, one of these games if need be. But yeah, Bryce Duke is the first one up to replace K in that sense.
Yeah. Foot brings up a good point here. He says on Arango, anyone foresee any visa issues that delay game time as we might not see until the end of August? I wouldn't be surprised. That was not a question that was asked today. Everything was mostly about Bob. Mark Anthony Kaye and everything. But from what I recall, LAFC, obviously covering both teams, LAFC have not had visa issues like LA Galaxy have had. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know how they go about, filing the paperwork and all the different things. But covering the other team across town, Galaxy have had a lot slower process from what I recall than LAFC. So comparing the two teams, LAFC has had a more smoother transition with players with international players. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be the same case. I know, I retweeted the thing that John Rojas tagged me that, Christian already said goodbye to his hometown, his family, his hometown, everything. Obviously, he was very emotional. He was in tears. So, I mean, to me, that is a sign that things are, when you say goodbye to your family, that to me tells me that, like, hey, the visa process has kind of been through, everything kind of smooth. And I think the details were just missing. And I think the official detail of Christian Arango now, we could, to your point, Fruit, it could backtrack and obviously it could take time. But typically when you say goodbye to your family, unless something happens at the embassy or something like that, but I don't see that happening now. I don't have a timeline. We weren't able to ask them, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is announced by the end of the week. What are your thoughts?
For me, it's starting to get a little bit late in the season to think that he's maybe someone that is really going to move the needle for us, especially if there's still things to be worked and he hasn't been announced yet. So it really is going to depend on how fast this deal can be done, because, we have the meat of our schedule coming up. We have 2 SKC games and we have a Tráfico. And after that, the season will probably be pretty much developed by then. And he will be someone that will be looking for what he's going to be for us next season. So I hope they can figure out a way to get him in this roster soon. We really need someone that can put the ball in the net and fulfill that 4-3-3. So it's a matter of what it still needs to be done. Or maybe it's this roster spot that needed to happen for it to consummate the deal. But I'm hopeful that he will be on a plane very, very soon to get started with his training and incorporate it into the group.
Yeah, because I think the last thing you want for LAFC is for this to prolong and he not be able to get in with his teammates and not be able to practice. Because to your point, I mean, this is a big month for LAFC with everything going on. Obviously the All-Star game is in the mix. You mentioned in El Tráfico, so you want to have him as soon as you can, because if not, he's still gonna have to get used to the system. He's still gonna have to get used to the players and how they play, right? And yeah, you have to tell him, like, we need you to score. It's not an easy thing to do, right? It's not an easy thing to come in, wherever you come from. It still takes you some time, or you can surprise everybody and start scoring. JP, what are your thoughts on LAFC being able to integrate Christian as soon as possible?
Yeah, I think it's an easier thing than what we're making it seem. Because if you look at the RSL game, Moon, Palacios, Raheem, they all crossed the ball, but they just didn't have a target man. And you're just gonna put Arango in and say just stay in the box and finish, and it's not like he's new to that. It's not like he's young. He has experience. He knows more or less positioning of how to be in the box. So yeah, I mean, it's ultimately just been the reasons why we haven't scored, because we don't have a target man. We don't have somebody to be a killer and a finisher in the box, and I think that's what he is. Maybe he won't be a big aerial presence because he's 5'9", but maybe he can squeeze into spaces and get some headers in. But he's going to be getting all the balls, and he's bound to put some of them in So I think he will help us. Obviously, he won't be an immediate impact, but it won't be a long transition like other players. He's not going to be asked to check in a lot. The middle is going to control the ball enough. He's not going to have to hold the ball. He's just going to have to make runs and ultimately be a threat in the box.
Yeah, I think to your point, I think it will take him a little bit of time. That's why I feel like the sooner the better. Because look, even Kim Won, it took him. Obviously, I don't think Christian's dealing with a knee injury or anything like that. I think he's coming healthy, but I think it's going to take him a couple games, maybe a month, maybe a month and a half. But to your point, so that's you're towards the end of the season there, and you know that the timing, right? It's all about this timing, right? Because as soon as you rush in a player, right? Let's just hypothetically speak, they go back to the 4-3-3 or whatever, right? There's different movements, right, opposed to the 5-3-2, right? So to your point, JP, he if you're a striker, you know where you need to be, but at the same time, is like Kim Won has to be able to be able to adjust to time his runs. Or where is he going to want the ball? Does he want the ball near post, or is he going to wait? You know what I'm saying? That thing, the gelling with that is going to take some time. And I think, the sooner he gets in here, the sooner they can get a feel for each other and practice on those different things. So I think that the timing of it, hopefully they're able to get it done this week and with all that, and there's no visa issues, because if there is anything that delays it, I think it's going to add a little bit more difficulty to getting to learn each other a little bit better than what you would expect. What are your thoughts, Celso?
It's going to help tremendously because, every goal we scored, it's like a finesse goal. We're going through the middle. It's something cute. We do a 1-2 and someone's open and they score, right? Or it's a beautiful cross, and then Cifuentes has this amazing shot that he's never going to do it again. Well, probably he will, because he's but but we're missing the bread and butter goals where we just cross it in the box, someone puts it in, whether it's with his head or not. Timing, like I said, finding the space, and we've missed that person, the person that has presence. Diego Ross is not that player. He's a guy that's going to find space and his shot when most won't, but he has to be a little bit wider. And again, I have the pleasure to see him play, and he likes to play really wide, and and when he's attacking. So we need to have the box presence, but at the same time, it changes the way that you play with your wingers. What are you going to now ask Moonwan and whoever is playing on the left to start lobbing the ball more versus trying to come in with your 1-2s? Which what happens? You lose the ball, you get exposed. Now here comes the counter strikes. So I think it can help us also defensively to rely less on that penetration from our wingers and have people in the box that we can just do what essentially people are doing against us. Doing the heavy crosses, but the open crosses that they are getting people in stride. And that's where I think he can be really dangerous.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what we all expect. So, I mean, it's looking likely. So I expect, if I had to guess, maybe by the end of the week, just with everything getting done with today. So I wouldn't be, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this is announced officially tomorrow. So now I want to look at the standings. For LAFC, we have it right there. Obviously, Seattle is number one in the Western Conference, but we see as Kansas City, LA Galaxy, Colorado, and LAFC in fifth place. Obviously, they just traded Colorado, who's in front of them. Minnesota, who they play tomorrow, which is going to be interesting, and obviously Real Salt Lake there in seventh place. So I mean, they're not doing too bad, how opposed to how they started the season. Sitting there in fifth, you get a win tomorrow. I'm assuming Colorado plays tomorrow as well. But
no.
You can no? Okay.
We're the only team that plays this week in midweek. And then we don't play
okay.
in the weekend, and then everyone plays on the weekend, but we only play midweek.
Okay, thank you for correcting me on that. But yeah, look, if they win, they could get 3 points, go ahead of Colorado, but Minnesota United is not going to be an easy game tomorrow. Well, how you guys feeling? Celso, how are you feeling about the standings, where LAFC is currently sitting?
Well, I think they're exactly where they deserve to be, and it's probably the ceiling for this team unless we see something very different. Anytime we run against the fourth or third seed, we hit a wall and goes right back. So, there's a pretty big gap that entails right after us. So what's going to be interesting is what really happens in the next couple of games. Minnesota has an excellent defense, but they also have a former goalie of LAFC, so I think there's going to be some nerves involved. So it's going to be really interesting to know what happens in the next couple of games. And as I said, those are probably the two most important games of our schedule. And I don't say that lightly, because it will set up what this season is all about. Because if we look back after all these home games and we really didn't have, some signatures wins, we're going to know where we are. And we're going to be a 7th, 8th seed, right? Because we're going to probably drop a couple of positions here in this tight race. And that's probably, a good place for us, given all the uncertainties and inconsistencies that we have. But again, we are a surprising team that came from a really good, 2-3 win, a 3-win, streak that looked really good. And I'm not the kind of person to try to panic after one game. I really don't like to panic after 2 games. So we're going to see what happens after these 2 next contests here and see where we are.
JP, how are you feeling about LAFC's currently standings in the Western Conference?
They didn't take advantage of the opportunity they were given. Both Galaxy and Colorado dropped points weekend and midweek. So if we would have won and won last game and tied against Portland, we would have been 3rd, and everything would be different. But yeah, I mean, we need to crack top 4 at the end of the season. I think that's a good position. If we're 5th, we have to play the playoff game away, or every game away, when we don't get a home playoff game. But I think we deserve to be top 4. The team should work to be at least top 4. Not focus too much on the standings, but try to push, be 4th, and then make that final push and come playoffs. But I mean, they didn't take advantage of an opportunity. They beat Minnesota in this game. Minnesota has played 14 games. We've played 15. So we need to beat them to have that cushion in the weekend when they play and we don't, and we have our bye week, so they don't jump us.
Yeah, obviously. So I'm gonna take this down, but it's never easy, especially when you're getting to this time of year. Big game tomorrow for LAFC, midweek game. So what are you expecting out of LAFC tomorrow?
Come out swinging. I've always said, if you're the aggressor and we stop being the aggressor against Vancouver, which was very concerning to me. We lost the X-goal battle, which is the expected goals battle, which, again, that was the first time this season that we were in that position. And I expect us to really come back and try to restore some of that, aggressor mentality and go after Tyler Miller. And I believe it's going to be sentimental for him, and you want to exploit that.
Yeah, no, it's first time back, being back at the bank. Facing his former club. So, I mean, that's going to be interesting. So, and everybody's familiar with Tyler Miller. You're definitely going to want to test him out from outside the 18. So, obviously, if you're Vela, you're Sifu, this is definitely the keeper you want to test out from outside the 18, because, anything can happen. He's also off he comes off. I haven't seen him this season, but I remember he was off his line a couple of times, and he was able to get beat. But JP, what are your thoughts going into tomorrow's game?
Yeah, I mean, they have to play aggressively. Bob was very adamant in the press call about intensity and attitude. And if we have that attitude and intensity since the jump, we should be able to get the 3 points against Minnesota. You're at home. You've had your 2-game slump. You need to come and get this win and clear off the bad energy, and make sure everything's back on track. I say we play 5 in the back, press them high. With our wing backs and, create chances like we did against RSL. Hopefully we put more of them away this game. And then maybe we can move to the 4-3-3, control the middle in the second half and see, a bit more of B-Rod. But yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing. I think I also want to see B-Rod. I mean, for whatever reason he wasn't available, but I think, this is the game you want to see him, play. You want to see him get more minutes. You want to see him, obviously. I think, Bob, it dictates the way the game is being played, right? Obviously, the player is on there, but nevertheless, he's a DP player. So you got to figure out, I mean, I know it's a tough job for Bob, but you got to figure out how to get him in the mix and find a way for him to help you out. Like, obviously, I don't know if it's going to be up top, but I think I have more of a feeling more on the wing, more in the midfield. I don't really see him as a forward because I know he has struggled, but hey, look, if that's where they see him, I guess you're gonna have to live with that. But I see him more on the midfield, helping them somewhere in the midfield there. But yeah, if they're playing the 5-3-2, 4-3-3, we know we're expecting. But look, it's going to be an interesting game. Obviously, a lot of motion today with Mark Anthony Kaye getting traded. Obviously, it's a bittersweet feeling, obviously, for those players. But look, that's going to open up the door for Christian Arango to come here. But yeah, look, if we look at tomorrow, they got Minnesota. They play Minnesota, and then the following Wednesday, they get about a week off. They play Sporting Kansas City, I believe, at home, and then they go to San Jose. So, tomorrow's game's pretty big. If you're LAFC, you want to get this win. Celso, final thoughts.
Love to see Tomas Romero get a clean sheet in front of everybody, and the old goalie Tyler Miller. I think it would do wonders for his confidence. There's been 2 games now. He's had multi-goals scored against him. We need to restore the confidence of our young keeper and not expose him so that he continue to be developed into the amazing, future talent that he is. But, confidence is something. And with goalies, we have to be really careful. So tomorrow is a very, very important test for him. And I expect our defense to give him all the support he needs to get the clean sheet.
Yep. Make a great point. JP, final thoughts.
I need to go out and get the 3 points. Segura's not going to be available. So Blackman ultimately, I think, has to step up if we play the back 3. Make the back line feel confident, like Celso said. And just be more aggressive. I think it just comes down to that. We know this team can play. We know it's not talent that's missing. Sometimes it's just attitude and putting it in the net. So yeah, 3 points, and then we go up from here.
Yeah, a very vulnerable game tomorrow for the Black and Gold. So we'll have to see what happens. Celso, JP, thank you guys for tuning in, and especially everybody on the chat, on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook for tuning in. Thank you guys. So for Celso and JP, we'll catch you guys next time. Bye, everybody.